Hello and welcome to Chapter 128 of DC Alliance Podcast. With me, as always, is Clay. Clay, how you doing this evening?
Um, I'm doing better than what I was doing about 2 minutes ago.
Well,
Thanks, Travis.
well, we were troubleshooting my issue.
Some technical difficulties. Travis is making me go crazy over here, thinking that I had some issues with my microphone when all he had to do was just look at his volumes. You
Yeah,
know?
the
Yeah.
master volumes when I was turning them down because they were rather annoying when I was working on something. After we did a conversation that we'll talk about in a little bit when we talk about the show notes. But Clay, we had a kind of a busy-ish week last week. We dropped 2 episodes, an emergency episode. We got the earnings call on Thursday. We've gotten the director speaking, Leslie Grace speaking, and Batgirl. There's a petition underway. It's been we complained about no news about a month ago. We've gotten some news. It's not great news, but we've gotten some news nonetheless.
Very true. Very, very true. But we'll get into all that. We do have a hefty episode, but we're going to try to get through it pretty quickly because we don't want to spend about 4 hours doing this whole thing.
No. It'll be good. It'll be a fun episode. But let me get the network plugs out of the way first. We are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance with 8 shows in total. On Mondays is Ranger Alliance. That's with Clay and rotating guest hosts of Jake and Joe. That's where they got you covered on everything Power Rangers. That rotates bi-weekly with Slice of Film with Katie and co-hosts Mark and Sarah. That's where they got you covered on every new film, old film, and everything in between. I think their most recent episodes were The Gray Man and Everything Everywhere All at Once reviews. And Clay, what was the most recent episode which dropped on Monday of Ranger Alliance that I haven't had a chance to listen to yet?
So this is an episode called Kim and Friends. So
Okay.
it's a play off of a comic book series, but it is a name that it's very meta because in the comic book, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers do not know that they are referred to as the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So they're trying to come up with a name at the end of one of the books that we review, and Kim and Friends is an actual name that they're trying to pitch. But we mainly talked about it because Kimberly is a big focal point of the last few issues, and something
Okay.
really cool happens in this one issue that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, fun fact, just off the side, a little bit off the side, beaten path here. Where I go to bargain shop for comics, they got a big dump of IDW comics in the last week, hardcovers. No, they're not Ninja Turtles. No, they're not Power Rangers. They're Star Trek.
I
And
mean,
Star
Star
Trek
Trek
is
is
it's
it's
low on my fandom totem pole, let's say. So suffice to say, because I was coming up to the autoplay and all I saw was a hardcover, and I saw IDW was the first, and my mind raced to the possibilities of what could be there, and yeah, not as much. So anyway, on Tuesdays is DC Alliance with myself and Clay. We got you covered on everything DC. On Wednesdays is superhero discussions. Normally, that's where I got you covered on everything and anything animation. But with Harley Quinn, the animated series being dropping episodes on Thursdays, we are going to drop episodes Saturdays and Sundays covering that. Just depends on when World's Finest True Believers is airing and when A Walk Through the Multiverse is airing. But we're going to share the weekend with those great guys. Special thanks to Chris and Joe for that until Harley Quinn ends. On Thursdays is Star Wars Alliance with Clay and Katie. They get you covered on everything Star Wars. On Fridays is Marvel Alliance with Chris and Brent. Obviously, they get you covered on the Marvel side. On Saturdays, bi-weekly is a walk through the multiverse with Joe. That's where Joe covers everything that isn't DC, Marvel, or Star Wars, and Joe has quite a bit to cover these days. I think he dropped an Umbrella Academy review, was his most recent episode. On Sundays, monthly is World's Finest True Believers with Chris Balga. That's where Chris and a guest take a look at comic of a guest choice. But sometimes Chris also has creator spotlights, and his most recent episode was a creator spotlight, chatting with Mike Grell, who you would know from various comics, including Iron Man and Green Arrow, of course, and I loved when he talked about both of those characters respectively, especially the Green Arrow point where he was talking about what went through Oliver's mind when he was face to face with a person that he either kill him or just subdue him. And I just loved his discussion about that. It was great, and the whole interview was great. So special shout out to Chris there. DC Alliance goes live on the Geekverse YouTube channel Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Star Wars Alliance goes live Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and Marvel Alliance goes live Thursdays at 9:10 p.m. Eastern Time. All three of those shows also have their own podcast feeds. Search for Marvel Alliance, DC Alliance, or Star Wars Alliance if you just want Marvel content, DC content, or Star Wars content. But if you want all 8 shows on the podcast network, stay subscribed to the Geek Ultimate Alliance on your podcast app of choice. We also have a Patreon, 2 tiers, a $1 tier, and a $5 tier. The $1 tier is basically a tip jar. You like what we're doing and you want to help us out any way you can. And the $5 tier is where you get your extras. You get your ad-free episodes, early access to episodes, and Patreon exclusive episodes. Clay, myself, and Joe posted our Wonder Woman 1974 versus 75 TV movie pilot reviews. Well, not review, more so comparison between the two. On deck for us next for DC Films through the years is Superman 78. And I was thinking today, since we did the TV movie pilots for both Wonder Woman shows, we're going to have to do it for the Flash TV show of the 90s, but that had a super long made for TV movie pilot too. So I got to pitch that to Joe. But also, we have your show where you look at shows for the first time. And what episode are you in the Game of Thrones right now? Did you get the chance to watch episode 7 after?
I did not. I'm going
Okay.
to be watching that possibly, I believe, on Friday, if not on Tuesday. So tomorrow.
Okay.
Um, so I do plan on getting a little bit ahead. It's creeping up on me, this whole like fatherly duty thing. My
Yeah.
wife
Yeah.
is like right around the corner. She's about to have a baby. So I may have to start pumping those seasons out pretty quickly. But I will say, if anybody remembers season 1 of Game of Thrones, I think episode 6 is my favorite. Episode
Ooh.
6 is my favorite so far because the one person that I wanted their comeuppance to happen, it happened at the very end of the episode, and I did a fist pump and I was super excited. It's really morbid that you're just like, oh yeah, somebody died. Hell yeah.
Yeah, it gets that way. It's a great show though. He's talking about Game of Thrones. That's what Clay is going through for the first time. We also have the MCU, the MA Marvel Alliance guys looking at the MCU. They're doing their We Can Watch This All Day rewatch. I think from yesterday when we recorded a special thing. I
It
think
has
they
been
were.
announced. It has been announced, so we can share it. So, not the time that we are recording this live, but the time that this drops. Of course, DC Alliance comes out on Tuesdays. Tomorrow, which is Wednesday, Superhero Discussions Old Day, for the time being, because of Harley Quinn, there will be a special DC Alliance episode, which will be a crossover with, of course, a walk through the multiverse where me, Travis, and Joe are reviewing the first 5 episodes of Sandman. Travis had to dip after episode 3 because he had not finished. He was like halfway through episode 4,
No,
and
I had to make we were gonna record at 8:30, so I was my time. So I'm running down the stairs with the computer and a glass of water, making sure I made it on time. And I gotta say, the Lucifer Sandman fight was amazing. I really enjoyed that clash. That I didn't know what I was getting because I haven't read any source material, so I didn't know if we were getting like some weird like magic conjuring stuff, some weird hand-to-hand combat, some weird duel type thing. I didn't know what was gonna go down. So I gotta say I loved it, and I think I put an appropriate GIF in the chat between the stream this morning after I finished watching that.
and
I wouldn't dare watch episode 5 at work because that's where I wouldn't dare chance that because they can see what you do on your computer. So I don't want them from what I've been told. I don't know if I want them see. It'd be just like probably watching some episodes of The Boys on my computer.
yes and no.
Yeah, yeah.
And me and Joe had a big discussion about episode 5. So we think that will be an episode that makes or breaks people when it comes to
Ooh.
general audience and watching this series, because It is very graphic and not graphic. It
Okay.
plays a lot with the imaginary, with your
Okay.
imagination, which I think is the best kind of suspense and the best kind of horror.
I'm really interested to
Is
check that out tomorrow.
is the stuff that you don't see because your mind can go all sorts of directions and play with that. So I think it is something that will probably, for somebody like Abby, would probably say, yeah, no, I'm not going to watch this anymore. I already know, just because of uh the screen grab that they showcase for each episode. Just by seeing what is there for episode 6, I know what that episode is, and I'm really excited to watch it later tonight. But yeah, it's going to be very, very fun. Episodes 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 will be reviewed over at Walk Through the Multiverse. And whichever day that Hines drops his Harley Quinn, we will then drop the Sandman Part 2 review the opposite day. So if Hines decides to drop it on a Saturday, we
Oh,
will drop.
it's always ready in the can on Thursday. It goes up to the patrons a couple days early as well.
Yes, yes, but if you do decide to drop it on Saturday, then we will drop it on a Sunday, because I know that because of World's Finest Troop, or not World's Finest, sorry, because of A Walk Through the Multiverse coming every other week, you sometimes have to switch whether it be a Saturday or a Sunday. This week, A Walk Through the Multiverse is not usually on, so Travis is going to drop it on a Saturday, which means the Part 2 review will be on Sunday.
Yeah, well, that's fine. They get that, and also we have Katie going through the Star Wars comics with her husband, and we have Joe's Multiverse Minutes and my top fives as well. So also Clay and Snell are doing the Batman '89 comic review. They're going to get together to do the final couple issues at a certain point.
What was that?
Uh, that's about it.
All right.
We thank everyone that can be a patron, but if you can't, if you can take a quick 30 seconds to rate and review the podcast on your podcast app of choice, that would be greatly appreciated. So we have a couple people in the chat already. All in the Game says the plan is only effective at the people who come up with it / execute it. We'll definitely get into that at some point. And Derpy Gaming says, as DC fan, if the Snyderverse enough said, add those that support that and those that support
And that's, guys, we will talk about everything that was discussed during the investors call. We have thoughts and opinions on it as well. I think that it was a big discussion point this past weekend, and a lot of people have beaten a dead horse with a lot of these points, but we want to go through it ourselves.
Yep.
And we talk about it.
And
So,
also, Derpy Gaming, we don't care what you like as DC fan, just don't be a dick about it. That's essentially, I think, our motto here. Don't be a dick about whatever you do. Like don't harass anyone if you like something. Like, you don't need to harass someone, but like, who cares
yeah,
what you like?
because
I don't care what you like, so it doesn't matter if you like something. If you're a
I
dick about
know
it,
that
let her know.
recently, because of how reactionary I was with the Batgirl stuff, I think I was pretty reactionary to somebody in our comments in the last episode. But yeah, Derpy, if like the thing is, everybody has opinions. I have an opinion. Hines has an opinion. But as long as we're not being shitheads about it, we're all good. So, where do we want to start off at?
Let's start on a positive note before we dive into that earnings call, Clay. And we've got a little tease for Joker 2, Folie à Deux, from Lady Gaga on her Twitter. And like I was saying, I know DC had a rough week with the earnings call, but and the Batgirl stuff. But I think we can say for certain that this is a kind of a property that we're, even though I'm not a super fan of the first one, like I enjoyed it, but I didn't have repeat viewings. I think we both agree with the amount of money it made. That this is like when Zaslav sees this, I think his eyes light up in dollar signs. To be honest with you.
Well, yeah, but we all know what this announcement really was. It was an attempt to be a smokescreen for what happened to Batgirl.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
And for me, like, I was still very reactionary to all of that, and I was like, okay, we knew this already. Doesn't make a difference to me, but we still know that they canceled Batgirl. And I will say this: I've talked to friends about it. I went to Batman News Weekly to talk about this, and talked to my co-host, who's a really close friend of mine, uh, and he said that I was getting a little emotional with it. And optics with Zaslav are not great right now.
No, not
They're
at
not.
all.
Now, I called him a racist piece of shit on our last episode. He may be. And that may be my thoughts for who knows how long. But until he proves me otherwise, that's what I see. But he also may not be. But he has to prove to me that he's not. You know? So when I saw this whole thing with Lady Gaga, I know people were excited to get the actual confirmation and everything else. Uh, we still don't know because we talked about this in very small details, but there was a I think it was like from a Reddit leaker. The plot points to this movie were kind of all over the place, but right after the Lady Gaga stuff was confirmed, we also got confirmation that most of the setting of this movie will actually be taking place in Arkham Asylum,
I'm
which
interested to see like Philip's take on Arkham Asylum. Aren't you? Like, I just to see that. I don't think it's going to
now,
be
do
like your
you
standard
assume?
view.
I assume that that's what it was at the very end of the first
That's what
movie.
I thought too, but this could be where this movie made so much money, like you could actually do a bit better of a set. But do you want to? Do you want to keep the dank? Do you, because it wouldn't be the Gotham that we know, or you could get, or perhaps he got moved from that setting to the Arkham setting.
And for me, this movie's getting made, so I can no longer keep saying, "Oh, well, I don't want this movie. I don't want this movie," because no matter what, it's still getting made. Um, Honestly, it could go either way. If they want to make it super aesthetic-y with the way we usually see Arkham, wet, gross looking, dark. If they want to give that gothic look to Arkham, I don't think I would have a problem with it, but it wasn't necessarily the aesthetic of Joker in the first movie. So you have to be careful with what you're playing with because you don't want to deter from what got you that $1 billion in the first place.
Exactly, and aren't people more wondering what is going to happen after? Maybe we even find out, like, because I thought it was a possibility that it all happened in his head.
Yeah.
So, will we find that out? I'm interested to see this, but like I said, it's not my typical pew 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 pew. But I'm watching Sandman right now, and I'm enjoying that as well. So I'm open to new things. I'm interested. There's just a little bit of positive light here, and something else I threw in because myself and Clay were so annoyed about it, and I think rightfully so. When we reviewed season 2 of Stargirl, all the episodes were like first episode was summer camp, and then it was chapter
I think it
one
was
summer camp, chapter
I
two
think it
summer
was
camp.
summer school.
Yeah,
It was summer school chapter 1, summer school chapter 2, and all of this. But now we have official titles to each episode.
which make it especially we were teased that it was going to be a murder mystery type thing, and it kind of sounds like this here because episode 1 is titled The Murder, episode 2 is The Suspects, episode 3 is Extortion, episode 4 is Evidence, episode 5 is The Thief, episode 6 is Betrayal, episode 77 is Infinity Inc. Part 1, episode 8 is Infinity Inc. Part 2, episode 9 is Monsters, episode 10 is The Murderer, episode 11 is Bullying, episode 12 is Last Will and Testament of Sylvester Pemberton, and episode 13 is Reckoning.
I'm interested in the betrayal. I want to know what that is. And Derpy Gaming, this is what I was talking about when we talked about it in like a small length last time we talked about this. It was from the Redditor link, the Redditor leak. Sorry. He says, I heard Joker 2 includes torture, decapitation, and rape. Well, because it's been confirmed that Arkham Asylum is a big setting of this film, that leak said that majority of the film would actually take place outside in Gotham, and things are going to go crazy and chaos would ensue. And so, because the Arkham Asylum thing has been confirmed, I think you can throw everything else out of that leak. And the big thing with that was a lot of people were saying, "Oh, this kind of just sounds like somebody trying to be an edge lord with this realistic take on Joker." And so that's why most people were not even paying attention to that leak as well. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
So
But
Clay,
the next topic is Idris Alba.
yeah,
His quote was, "I have something." What was it? "I have something big cooking up at DC." Was, I think, the quote
for DC right now, I think he
for
said.
DC right now. Yeah, and he was doing this interview for this movie he is making called Beast. I think it is. Uh, I will be completely honest. I am not looking forward to that movie whatsoever. It doesn't look great. On the game says at least they're keeping it to 13 episodes. This is Stargirl, of course. That's
Yeah.
my preference from the Superman and Lois show.
I think we're both in agreement with you on that. We don't like the whole 20 plus episode seasons for these shows.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But he says, uh, where was it? Uh, yeah, cooking for DC right now. So, what do you think? So, a lot of people back in when Peacemaker was first being made, there was all these reports. Well, there's no way Harley Quinn or Idris Alba could be in that because Idris, like, these were actual quotes of things people were saying. People said that Idris wasn't made for TV. Do you not know what Idris? He's Luther,
Yes.
The Wire.
Yes.
Uh, uh. Oh shoot! I know there's another big one. There's a third. I know that he's like really big on.
I would be more saying that David Zaslav is not into big comic book budgets on TV. That's what I would say if I
But
was going to live
that's the
in.
thing. So I think he, again, everybody's gonna be their own hype man, right? Everybody's going to get people excited, but I do think he kind of tripped up here because as of right now with Zaslav, I would have kept my mouth shut. I wouldn't have said anything. Just say, "Oh, I think we're working on something." Simple as that.
Yeah.
Do not say anything that builds hype because I think he did great in Suicide Squad. I really want to see more of his character. But there is zero, and I mean zero guarantee of we ever seeing Idris Elba again.
Oh, 100%. Like we love Will Smith when he played Deadshot. We wanted to see more Will Smith. We haven't seen him at all since that movie. So there's no guarantee with this stuff. And like you said, I don't know if you're drawing more attention, if you're trying to stir up more. But I haven't seen the giant vocal fan base for his character. I've seen people appreciate his character when the movie was out, but since then, like I haven't seen it all the time or anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him pop up in any of James Gunn's shows. I would love to see him pop up in a film in DCU, like anything like that. Sign me up. I think that's something that they're missing is bringing back some villains and having them like reoccur and get captured again and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would really enjoy him showing up in Peacemaker just because we saw the dick measuring contest in the Suicide Squad, and I think it would be a really cool story to have uh Blood Sport, right? No.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Blood Sport find out that he's alive.
Also, that Peacemaker's changed.
Well, he wouldn't know that, right? He
No,
wouldn't
but
know
he
that.
will. He
So
will. He will. Like he would eventually. I assume that eventually he would get to know that, and that would be pretty interesting to see, especially compare.
not unless Amanda Waller sends him after him again.
Could very well be. I'm very interested to see how he will show up if he actually does. And also, just as other little small note, because people are worried about James Gunn post the news about Batgirl and other properties, he said that there's no need to worry on behalf of Peacemaker. Our friend said we'll still be making lots of peace in season 2. I know more than nothing, and there's no need to be worried about Peacemaker season 2. And I put there in the notes that Peter Safran is a producer on Peacemaker, and he's a pretty good friend with James Gunn. He's also produced Shazam, Aquaman 2, and the Suicide Squad, James Gunn's Suicide Squad, and he's also producing Aquaman 2 and Shazam 2 for DC. So if there's anyone that would know, especially with theatrical and Zaslav being in on theatrical, I think Safran would know, and these connect to a greater DCEU, and I don't think they're that expensive to make.
No, and the big thing is that, you know, we now know that a lot of these properties that they're wanting to keep as far as TV can just take the max out of HBO Max and it stay on HBO. The good thing with that is people who don't have the streaming service but have the channel can list or can watch Peacemaker when it comes on HBO, if that's the route they decide to go. I think it would be, to be honest, because I mean, earlier today I thought I saw an article title that said something about James Gunn shares the window of which Peacemaker season 2 will start filming. Um, I don't know when it will be like filming at all or when it will come out, but we do know from what we were going to be talking about later today is that this new app for the streaming that WB Discovery is going to have is going to be, and I just realized that the background is an old background. It says Warner Media and not Warner Brothers Discovery. I'm an idiot. But the this new app is going to be coming out at the summer of 2023 is what it said, or was it summer of 2024? I can't remember actually. I think it's summer 2023 because I made the joke for Canada probably not getting it until 2038, but you are muted, sir. So if you
Hey! Come on now, Clay. You don't take shots like that. I've got to watch them. Crave TV has a deal, so they will be getting some of these shows. I think James Gunn answered some questions on Twitter today. There's a point 2 hours ago that he was replying to a lot of people. So
okay.
so perhaps he answered something there, giving the timeline for his.
We'll do the old logo
show.
here while we're talking about all this.
There we go. But yeah, I'm just excited. I love Peacemaker. So onward and forward. So Clay, I wanted to talk about this because before we get into the earnings call, and that is that the Batgirl directors put out a statement, and I'll just read it, I guess. We are saddened and shocked by the news. We still can't believe it. As directors, it is critical that our work be shown to audiences. And while the film was far from finished, we wish that fans all over the world would have had the opportunity to see and embrace the final film themselves. Maybe one day they will, inshallah. Our amazing cast and crew did a tremendous job and worked so hard to bring Batgirl to life. We are forever grateful to have been part of that team. It was a dream to work with such fantastic actors like Michael Keaton, J.K. Simmons, Brendan Fraser, Jacob Scipio, Corey Johnson, Rebecca Ferrant, and especially the great Leslie Grace, who portrayed Batgirl with so much passion, dedication, and humanity. In any case, as huge fans of Batman since we were little kids, it was a privilege and honor to have been a part of DCEU, even if it was for a brief moment. And then in a podcast episode, Baloney.
I want to be able to. I want to read this one because I just can't believe what this statement says. So it says here in a podcast episode, Baloney also shared via Screen Rant that the test screening audience agreed that the film was not big enough to receive a theatrical release, which we had been hearing all week, describing it as something that played like a TV pilot, and even comparing it to Fox's Dark Phoenix.
That's where I'm calling BS there.
Now,
I had told you, really.
I had told you that my host for Batman News Weekly, my co-host for Batman News Weekly, he had said, well, maybe a lot of these people are coming out of the woodworks now that the movie can never see the light of day because they were too scared to tell the truth when the movie was actually going to be coming out. That doesn't really make sense to me because the whole point of those test screenings is to be critical. But I can see there being some sort of like, oh, I'm going to be the Debbie Downer on the return of Keaton, so I'm going to be looked at like an idiot. So maybe I should keep my mouth shut. I can possibly see something like that, but I just don't see this movie again testing as good as it was. And I'm going to say as good. I'm not going to say great or amazing. I'm going to say good as it was because the first It was getting the same screen scores,
That's Black
and
Adam.
so was Black Adam. And people could say, "Oh, well, what about the budgets for them? That you have to put that into account as well." Yes, you do, but a score is still a score. Otherwise, people would not be sharing Rotten Tomato scores.
Yeah, and your margins are far better for Batgirl if it does well because of how less you spent on that. Still can't make any sense of the Batgirl decision. It doesn't make much sense if you're going to just save 20 million. I can't make sense of that unless you're going to completely like reset the DCEU, so that won't be in there at all, like going forward. But I don't know. Was Keaton too much of a part of this for them to be able to just
Well,
do reshoots
and
on that
that's the
part?
thing that everybody has been talking about, at the fact that you have screenings of this, and the very unfortunate thing for people, I guess, again, I think that WB needs to think about these things a little bit more than they have been, because you are changing dramatically things within this universe, and you're expecting people to watch it as just a one-off film, but still cling on to something like continuity and hope that people enjoy this movie. This movie leans very much on The Flash. We've seen this before. We've heard this before.
Yeah.
They needed the audience that had seen the Flash screenings to see the Batgirl screening. That's what they needed.
Yeah, that would be a smarter thing to
Yeah.
either
Well,
give them
I
something to
wanted
make
to
them
bring up
come
this
back.
comment. I wanted to bring up this comment because it's absolutely right. On the game says, isn't that the point of test screenings, to use the results to fix the movie? Well, I felt like most of what the conversation was a waste of time, but Eric Davis and Umberto
Umberto.
had a conversation on Twitter Spaces the other day, and Umberto did reveal that they only did the 10 weeks of like post production. And I'm not entirely in tune with everything else when it comes to post production, but he said that that was very unprecedented, that they just used 10 weeks and they didn't go over, they didn't work out anything. There was no limit for reshoots or anything else. I do feel like if you didn't feel like this was a grand scale movie that earned a theatrical release, you could have made it a big theatrical release movie with just a few reshoots and maybe some editing choices.
I don't. They don't have the best history of that.
Well, you can't say that because this is Zaslav's big like decision, his
Well,
first big decision, I would say.
communication was probably not key there, is because the rumor is they didn't find out until everyone else found out in the trades. And if they just talked to them, maybe they would have been open to trading that a little bit. It's just it's still a baffling decision, Clay, and I think this should push us right into the WBD earnings call and the aftermath of it, because we got a lot of things to happen in this earnings call. Well, not a lot of things and not a lot of things at the same time, because it seemed like there's a whole lot of the same thing being said multiple times.
Yeah, so the DC top heroes are said to be seen as the big opportunity points. Zaslav is really big into Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. He kept on naming those three immediately. For for the company moving forward. Additionally, Zaslav confirmed that there will be building a team with a 10-year plan focusing just on DC, similar to Disney with Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige. So I wanted to share, I'm going to share my screen here. A lot of people were actually misquoting this, because when they were talking, and when I say they, I mean majority of other podcasts talking about and just the overall conversation on Twitter is, oh, Zaslav has a 10-year plan. He has a 10-year plan. That's not what he said. I'm actually going to share my screen here, and I will share the audio. This is the video that I took from Twitter, and just listen to what Zaslav says. This is about a minute long. It's not going to be very long, but just listen to what he says.
DC is one of the top of the list for us. You look at Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman. These are brands that are known everywhere in the world, and the ability to drive those all over the world with great story is a big opportunity for us. We have done a reset. We've restructured the business where we're going to focus, where there will be a team with a 10-year plan focusing just on DC. It's very similar to the structure that Alan Horn and Bob Iger put together very effectively with Kevin Feige at Disney. We think that we could build a long-term, much stronger, sustainable growth business out of DC. And as part of that, we're going to focus on quality. We're not going to release any film before it's ready. We're not going to release a film to make a quarter. We're not going to release a film the focus is going to be, how do we make each of these films in general as good as possible? But DC is something that we think we could make better, and we're focused on it now.
So I wanted to share that because it's not that he has a 10-year plan. He is working on a 10-year plan. He is coming up with a team. He says that we have reworked it, we have rebranded, we have relaunched, I think was the wording that he chose. So me and Travis will have a separate episode when we get clearer information
on what the plan is. Yeah, we're not
what
gonna
this plan is, because here's what does that mean?
Yeah,
so does it mean, because in my mind, you could very easily pretend that everything after Justice League doesn't exist and just go from there. You could. It's a soft reboot. You just pretend like it doesn't exist.
You don't even need to do that hardcore, because Wonder Woman 84, that can exist, but that was previous in the actual grand scope of the timeline, like 1980s, 1970s type of deal. So that could exist there as well. I'm not sure, Clay. Do you want to throw away Birds of Prey as well? So I don't know if I would throw away these characters' adventures, but could just keep going on. And
Zaslav, one of the things that Snell has been saying after this conversation is the fact that, like, Birds of Prey, although it is a small casualty to COVID and the shutdown, it didn't have a lot of money come into it. No. So that could be seen as a failure, and Zaslav sees that. He's like, "No, I don't want it. Let's throw it out. I don't need it anymore."
See, that's why if he said reset, I would think he's going to start new. Caleb says, so the reset he's talking about is the business side of things, with them working on a 10-year plan means they haven't decided whether or not to reboot or continue DCU or the Snyderverse. See, I think it's even more grand than that, because they've said they weren't continuing with that for a while, but they still were using Wonder Woman and Aquaman and stuff like that. So I feel like a total reset, you got to wipe the board of all those actors, but those actors are getting up there a little bit too in age, because they haven't, like 2016 to now. That's out.
But here's the thing that people, I think that a lot of people, and I think Zaslav does know, that people need to understand when it comes to these characters. These characters go beyond the
Oh,
DCEU and they go beyond the Snyderverse. He doesn't care about the Snyderverse and he doesn't care about the DCEU. He cares about what he is creating because this is what is going to put him on top of what is now Warner Brothers Discovery.
well, he's
This,
on top. He's
well, yeah,
the
but I
top.
mean, like, as far as like, oh, look what I have done
Well, this
for
his
this company.
company up top. Yeah, like
Yes.
that's going to take a while. So I guess that's why he sounds like he's willing to like wait for a little bit of a burn for DC. Like he doesn't want a big event right away, uh, to like a big like world-ending event type thing, bringing everybody together. I'm not sure, Clay, because of Black Adam. It's really weird. Like it was always been weird that were they going to reset it? Were they going to relaunch it? I don't know because of the films that were already laid in place before WBD took over, and like it's we have to point out like they said that they believe in Black Adam, the Flash, and Aquaman. Seen those films and they think they're going to be great. And they said the worst thing he said was something like, "We can help them be better. No, we think we can make them even better." So Flash, Black Adam, and Shazam 2. He said we're really excited about them. We've seen them. We think they're terrific, and we think we can make them even better.
But what does that mean?
If they're already out and they're terrific, like if they're already in the can and terrific, why would you need to make them any better? Like, do you want
That's
to tinker with something so bad that it looks like terrible? Because I've seen that happen before too.
and that's when I really do agree with Snell. With this presentation was a lot of buzzwords.
Yeah,
Was a lot of like, hey, look at us, we're making things better. It is great. Hey, this thing looks good. Hey, we're gonna have this 10-year plan. It's a lot of these different things that are getting people excited. But for us who have been beaten and torn through what WB has done with these characters, can you really trust this guy? You know? And as far as, oh, well, Caleb says, and I'm not advocating for any one decision. If he can salvage the DCEU as is, great. If he wants to bring Zack and finish his Justice League trilogy, cool. If he wants to reboot, okay, do it. And that's something that I need to bring up also.
that Caleb, I just want to say one thing. I am in 100% agreement with that. While I really enjoyed Zack Snyder's 3 films, I don't care if they reset it. I just want to know what's going on. I don't care if they
I
relaunch it.
think that's what
I'm
all of
not
us
going
need
to
to know.
stop watching DC if they do one or the other. I'm going to watch and see what's going to happen. And I think you're like that as well. Like it's not like Clay was saying, but when we just before we got into this, these characters go far beyond any portrayal. You can have a favorite portrayal, and like people are getting excited for Keaton's Batman. I can understand you being pissed about him not being in Aquaman anymore, and him basically losing out on a lot of screen time in Batgirl, or well, a lot compared to not seeing him for 30 years. So I can understand fans of that being disappointed as well. It sucks. It's a bummer when you're not sure what's going on at all.
But here's something that I need to say, and I was saying this on Twitter with a couple people who were jumping into my mentions when I was having this discussion with other people. The 10-year plan does not mean 8 of it is going to be Snyder's. Like a lot of people believe that
None. I don't think if they continue, they're not going to bring it. He's not coming back.
I think it has to be said because there is still a lot of people for some reason that think, oh, Zaslav is a zaddy and that he's going to bring back the Snyderverse.
He's
Guys,
$1 million man. He's the $1 million man. If anyone watched wrestling growing up,
if he threw away $90 of a Batgirl movie, it's not so he can.
$90 million.
That's what I said.
You said no. I think you just said $90.
I said 90 million. Did I
Oh,
not?
maybe you cut out on my
Okay.
screen.
Yeah,
It sounded like $90. I was like, what are they making Batgirl for? What year is this?
if he is cutting a $90 million Batgirl movie, he's not trying to backtrack and owe people more money to go on to a plan that isn't his own.
Well, he's bringing in Horn, and I think this is probably the best time to bring up the listener question that we got from our pal Brant, because this kind of ties into this a lot. Brant
Yes.
asks, with Zaslav saying they want a structure similar to Marvel with a Foggy type, would you be interested in Feige himself coming to DC after the conclusion of the Multiverse saga, or would you prefer he stay with Marvel?
So this question has been asked a lot lately, not only to us, but people saying it on Twitter. I'm pretty sure either I sent it to Chris and Brent, or one of them sent it to me. There's a TikTok of a lot of people hoping that for some reason Kevin Feige will announce that he is running DC at D23. Um,
That would be. I don't understand that
I
logic.
don't get it whatsoever. But the thing is, I think that as of right now, Feige is doing okay at Marvel. And I say that because I say that not to sound condescending, but I say that more so just for the fact that, like, we know that Bad Bob is kind of like butting heads with him recently. And the last time somebody butt heads with Kevin, he was on the phone with Warner Brothers at one point. So, like, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I'm going to say we will not see Feige do anything with DC uh for like 10 years. I'm going to say 15 years.
I
I will go that far.
I could see multi at the end of Multiverse Saga, and I gotta say I would back up the Brinks truck for him just
I
because
I
he
don't
knows how
because
to like
but here but I
structure something. I love all the Marvel films. Like I really enjoy every one of them. Some of them are not as enjoyable as others, i.e., Thor: Dark World, for one example. Just a couple for me, but still, there are moments in every one of those films where I enjoy. But I also enjoy how different some of them are compared to other ones. I think that he understands the beauty of DC. I understand. I've said that as well out on the game that they should try and pitch one of his, like poach one of his lieutenants. But I could also see Disney going, I think we can be successful with one of your underlings instead of you paying them far less than what we're paying you. I think that the characters are more of the success than you. I could see that happening at a point with Bad Bob. So maybe we could see him with DC, and I would love it. I know there's a lot of people that would freak out, but I think it would be more positive than
because
anything.
here's the thing that everybody has been saying. You need somebody who understands the source material. You need somebody who has trust in the brand. That's Feige. Like, everybody is saying, "Oh, we need a Feige, but that's not Feige." Oh, we need somebody with these characteristics, not Feige. Guys, Feige has proven that he is the best in the business. And I'm going to take a bag out of I'm going to take a shiny little stone out of Snell's bag here. And wrestling, you see these guys go off and start their new thing. It gets successful, and then they move off to other things. That's why we have AEW and all the other stuff that has come out in the last 10 years when it comes to wrestling. Now, here, I think that I I would love Feige to make a Superman movie. I would love to, but I just don't think Feige himself, as of right now, like I said, within the next 10 to 15 years, would let go of Marvel.
Okay. Uh, I gotta say, I can see him leaving after the multiverse saga because what's next? Like, what would you challenge yourself? And you look over at it's a lot of similarities to sports. We'll say, for example, I've seen very successful head coaches slash managers on a very successful team leave that team and go to a new challenge and start anew. I.e., Phil Jackson, for example, going from the Bulls and then leaving and then taking a year off to travel on his motorcycle, and then taking a new challenge in Los Angeles and trying to steer that storied franchise to greatness, which he did. So I could see Kevin Feige doing that after a while because Clay, like the older you get, do you want and the more like successful as Feige is, do you think he thinks to himself like, should I be questioned here by Bad Bob? Like other Bob never, and I brought him all the successes. So I'm not sure. On the game, I would also said like Foggy's going nowhere because of beloved X-Men, but money talks pretty well. Sorry there, Caleb.
And then Caleb here. I know that you say you don't see it a lot mentioned. It's mentioned all the time in our chat here. There is no other person I don't see mentioned a lot. There is one other person, sorry, I don't see mentioned a lot. I know he headed up Arrowverse, which a lot of people don't like, but a lot of people do like it. I say Greg Berlanti should lead the new DC. I just don't think as of right now, because I know that all in the game, you're in the chat here with us. You were saying that last episode that, hey, he has done some big theatrical releases. And I say big, I think big on his scale from where he's grown, from where he was in the Arrowverse, getting his own movies and whatnot. I think that he could do it. I just don't think with where Zaslav is wanting, because he wants MCU money. He doesn't want anybody else's money.
He wants
doesn't want
tried and tested people, Clay, that have done
Yeah.
like big things, and that's why he mentioned Foggy. That's why he brought Horny, and I just think that Berlanti isn't big enough in the movie world. If this was for TV, yes, I think Berlanti would be the hottest commodity to grab. But I just think that that's the way they look at it. I know I believe that he could do a good job as well, Caleb. I think that the WBD is a little more short-sighted about that, if we're being honest.
Yeah, for sure. Some more stuff that came out of this earnings call. I know that you had a picture up here. DC looks to be getting its own studio.
Yeah, Clay, they shared a couple of different pictures, but one here showed the studios, WB. Hold on, let me make it a little bigger now. Warner Brothers Animation, New Line Cinema, and DC are their own studios, so that is pretty cool. HBO Max is still there, and HBO and Discovery, but like Clay said at one point, there is plans to essentially bring the two streaming services together as one.
Yes. And it will not be Discovery Plus. They did say that Discovery Plus is going away as well as HBO Max. The content is being combined for a completely different streaming service that will be coming out in 2024. 2023. I don't know why I keep saying 24. But you know, we get DC Studios, but at what cost? You know, it's going to be very interesting to see. There has been a lot of things kind of coming out of this as well, in the sense of like the stuff with Hamada recently, and we see Abney and DeLuca saying, hey, we want Hamada to stay. I actually saw Casey Walsh throw out the numbers of, okay, what was the very first regime and their spending plus their
that I would object to that initially, because he gave Hamada the Aquaman stuff, and I'm like, he came in November, and that was like finished.
It's give or take though. Like,
yeah,
honestly,
when you give someone $1 billion, the first $1 billion movie for DC that wasn't Batman, it ended up becoming the highest grossing DC movie of all time. And you come in a month later that comes out, I don't think you have a big part in that, in my opinion.
I mean, there could have been stuff in the background. We don't necessarily know.
Yeah, like I said,
because we know that we knew from way before that WB was already shit. You know, we knew that they were really hurting for somebody to be in that chair. And so I do think things were already being talked about. I'm pretty sure that we had heard Hamada's name being thrown out really early on, before he was even named the guy in the chair in the first place.
And like we talked about here, he got removed from the website. There's talks that he was pissed off about this, but he's going to stay on until at least Black Adam comes out, and then we'll find out more about his future at that point in time. So maybe we'll see how that does financially before he ends up.
He's like, hey, look, $1 billion movie again. I'm staying. That's basically what's probably going to happen.
I'm not that confident that
no, I'm
Black
not.
Adam's going to get
Black
there.
Adam's not making $1 billion. Jesus Christ. I'll be really surprised if it makes a profit. That's my own opinion. But we also get the Warner Animated group as well. You know, we always talk about getting more animation movies for DC. Hopefully they can, you know, co-sign on something and work together and get something out there. Something the equivalent to a Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You know, there was those rumors of that Batman Beyond animated movie, but who knows?
Well, at least Clay, I'm kind of confident that we'll get more DC direct to video films with this Warner Animation having its own studio. They're going to need to pump out some things, and this is kind of a staple with you got the universe and there's things planned already in place. So I don't think
Now, here's
Zaslav is going to like tinker with that and change that universe around. So I can totally see that continuing on.
but I got a question for you. With Wiseman coming out to say that he has been working with Disney and also Dynamite Comics doing all this stuff, I'm not saying that he's going to turn down an offer or anything, but like with him kind of making himself busy again, you see him coming back to Warner Animation and making some DC stuff.
If it's something like he'd come back for Young Justice again because he loves that. I don't know if he'd come back to start something new unless it was something big, like I've suggested with the like Crisis on Infinite Earths for animation. But if you want to do that in live action, I don't see animation being allowed to do that. Clay. I also want to point out there was a picture showing with the brands and the franchises, and Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman all had their own symbols in the franchises. I thought it was hilarious that they were right next to Shark Week. And 90 Day Fiance Universe. That's a universe.
This
I had no idea.
This is what bothers me. It irked me a lot. Not the 90 Day Fiance stuff. Abby is literally watching that right now. What bothered me was the brand and the franchises. And he put the brand of DC. Okay, cool. That's a brand. Yes, it is. But franchises, he put Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. It's the characters that he knows, yes, Zaslav, but there's more to DC than Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman.
I 100% agree.
We have seen that, and yes, when he was talking about the 10-year plan, he mentioned Aquaman, but like, you have to give me something to show that you know more than Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman. Because if we're going back to the days of 6 Batman movies, 5 Superman movies, and 3 Wonder Woman movies, and nothing else,
the days that never happened
no,
concurrently.
I'm just saying, like, not at the same time, but I'm saying, like, we had nothing but Superman and Batman for years. I don't need that again.
No, in saying that, I will agree about that. But if you were to reset a universe, would you complain if like your first couple of films featured Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman laying the foundation to go further on with the characters rather than go with some obscure character right off the bat? Like, wouldn't you rather them go and try to establish those 3 pillars in a couple movies and then go on to have them create Justice League, and then you can branch out to all your different stories about your different characters?
just like viewer Anon, and I'm gonna go off of Caleb's comment here later, but just like viewer Anon on Twitter said, the MCU did not start thinking about Endgame. It vaguely thought about Avengers, but it started with Iron Man and Incredible Hulk. And the only reason why they got to play with Incredible Hulk was because that was a completely different studio. And they just happened to say, hey, let's do this thing and see what it moves forward with it. And then it became the MCU. You can't just tell me, hey, we're going to make a 10-year plan. If I don't like your first movie, how do I know I'm going to like the rest of the 10 years? And I know it's somewhat contradicting. It's contradicting to what we had said in the sense of like, hey, you got to let some movies kind of suck or not be as great, because not every movie is going to be a $1 billion movie. But my fear is, if Zaslav goes this hard and then learns that his first movie is not $1 billion, I feel like he's going to scrap everything.
I don't think that, because then you look like you got egg on your face after having this big dog and pony show. He's not going to reset like that, Clay. The biggest thing on these people are egos. That's the only thing. That was part of DC WB's problem before. They just couldn't admit, yeah, we kind of made a couple fuck ups there where we took out stuff that we shouldn't have took out of a film and kind of just butchered a lot of things. We made mistakes, but we're going forward now. We didn't even acknowledge that. You just do that and move forward. It's the things that frustrate me, but the people with egos won't do that. So I know Zaslav will stick to his plan for a while, not just one film. That is something I'm confident of, that people will not bail out like that. Unless like it will be like a fan force stick. If you put out a $300 million film and it made 40 million, like maybe yes, but I like I said, I'm not going to go into it thinking like the first film I'm not going to like, because I don't know what it's about yet. Maybe it's about a character I hate, though. It could be about something I'm like, oh crap, this is going to suck, but I don't know what it's going to be about yet. So, but that fear could be there because they said a 10-year plan, but you're hoping to see other characters. Maybe there's characters that you like. There's characters I don't like from the MCU, and there are characters I love. So I'm just I'm a little nervous, but I'm glad they have a plan. Like, and it doesn't mean they have a story arc plan. They just have a plan of what. Maybe they have a plan of just like we want to start with 2 films a year for the first 2 years. Then we move to 3 films a year for the next 2 years.
Well,
so
and
that's why what we've said at the start about we need to hear their plan first before we can give ultimate judgment. We're just giving sort of a speculative judgment here on if they're doing this.
I want to go on to that conversation real quick, but I just wanted to address this with Caleb. He says the only non-producers I would suggest are Paul Dini and Bruce Timm. They spearheaded the DCAU. My ideal structure of DC Studios would be Berlanti as president and Dini and Tim as co-vice presidents. Now,
that's
I will say this.
Lineup.
I will say this, Caleb. I don't think that Dini wants anything to do with WB right now. And the reason being, he wrote Scoob, the Holiday Haunt, which just got canceled alongside Batgirl, which was also
getting no press because of Batgirl as well.
Yeah, but it was also like a week to being finished.
Yeah,
Batgirl and Scoob were literally neck and neck to see who would finish first. And I haven't seen Paul Dini post anything on Facebook recently, but I mean, he is like a god when it comes to DC writing. He has done a lot of the DC animated stuff, like Caleb said. He's done a lot of the comics. He wrote a lot of the Arkham games. He's even written a couple Star Wars Clone Wars episodes. He loves the animation stuff. And I think he is a good writer and you could get him on there. But when you burn a bridge like that, I don't know if he would be willing to come back.
Yeah, and I'm still really sour with Bruce Timm from the Batman and Harley Quinn movie. If I'm being completely honest,
but he is a producer. Fire. He is a producer on the Cape Crusader.
That's true too. But
that as of right now, we actually don't know any status on the Cape Crusader.
I thought I saw an update that it was, but take these with a grain of salt. We also got something from Deadline saying Constantine was moving along nicely, according to J.J. Abrams,
which is really weird. Like we heard that like J.J. Abrams was basically like lit freaking a flame under his ass by Zaslav being angry at the fact that he didn't do anything for 3 freaking years, getting paid $250 million. And I don't know if that is like good for you. You stole money from the old regime. You're not going to do it with me. Go ahead and go do some work. Like I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say, hey, get your ass out of here. You didn't do anything for us. We don't need that kind of work, or lack thereof. So some of the points that did come across on this Warner Brothers Discovery call, Discovery Plus is for women, HBO Max is for men.
Pretty terrible graphic. Like, who's doing this stuff? Like, you could just say that if you're gonna do that, you got to do the percentages. You can't put in like just broad you can't put in qualitative terms. You got to put in quantitative terms.
That was so good. So many people. I saw one that was so that means Discovery is Venus and HBO Max is Mars.
Yeah, I saw that as well. That was a good one.
But some more serious notes. Warner Brothers Discovery stock actually dropped post merger updates and did not impress Wall Street.
No,
Does
there's a lot
this
of
really mean anything? Like, honestly, do you think that this means anything to Zaslav, to the stock exchange? Actually, like,
it means to the stock exchange, yes, because if like their stock is taking quite a hit, Clay. So the average Joe, to be honest with you, you or I can get in on the ground level right now. It may even drop a
really?
little. It may even drop a little bit more.
Let me go on.
Not
We are
big expenses, but
we are not sponsored by Robinhood, but I'm just gonna go check it out right now.
yeah, you can get in and then maybe ride a big increase if they have a few hits, right? So there is possibility uh, for your average person because of the drop, because of the big drop. They had a drop when the news for Batgirl came out as
Holy
well.
shit! I could.
Yeah. And then you
Wow.
could ride, like for example, Penn Gaming was one that I've known people got in on at $4 and they were able to sell at 120. It's just a fluctuation on the market. So when you're high, like up, so this is a terrible time for WBD right now. But if let's say a couple movies are successes, so you get $1 billion with another movie, and your stock could go up in your next earnings call for your next quarter. It's very possible. Or like so that's why when there's a chance like this when they're so low, it's a lot of people do gamble. There was also a lot of speculative trade on this, so that people can cash out when this rises back up as well. So, it, interesting things is just they weren't impressed, and I can see why because they want a concrete and they want to know what is happening, like when, where, how, why, what, how much money is coming in, and a lot of this is speculative. You're not sure how much money films are going to make.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But after that, let's see here. There was, like you said, the Eric Davis, or like I said, the Eric Davis and Umberto conversation, um, mainly around Batgirl, how unprecedented it was, and everything else. The big thing was Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. They said, "Oh, well, she's actually been attached," because they were kind of saying the whole conversation was centering around Batgirl, but where does DC go from there?
yeah,
Uh, and this big talk was about Gal Gadot. Okay, is she still Wonder Woman? Is she moving forward? Everything else. And there, I think it was Umberto that said, "Oh,
yeah.
well, she's already been attached to films that are getting ready to release, and so we are pretty sure she's going to be in the continuation of the new DCEU." Now, I have
I
been
think the direct
hurting.
quote is, "Oh yeah, for sure." She's in a couple movies now, and she's in a couple other movies. I'm not going to spoil them. Uh, she's in a couple that are coming out now, and a couple that are due for release. And she's a team player, so I think she's going to be around for a while. I think it's safe to say.
What I have been hearing and what we have actually heard talked about on this podcast is that she is in Shazam 2 and that she is in The Flash. I don't
Yeah.
think that's really any a big spoiler because there isn't a huge story plot attached to her, I don't believe,
No, I
as
think
of
it's
yet.
appearances. I think it's just appearances. Who knows what the Flash, because of the whole Flashpoint comic, you and going to different worlds, you never know who Wonder Woman could be. So I'm interested. You could go so many different ways there. Clay, some negative news. Kevin Smith reveals that DC's anthology series Strange Adventures that was in development has been canceled by HBO Max.
Completely forgot about that show, by the way.
Yeah, same. And he threw out just out of nowhere. Yeah, we were talking to Nick Cage to
To
play
play Bizarro. How
Superman.
cool is that? I
That was
think that this is a very unique choice because Nick Cage was supposed to be Superman in the Kevin Smith,
been
Tim
written.
Burton
Yeah.
whole thing. Yeah, I think that would have been really, really cool.
And like I said, Constantine uh, update on that from J.J. Abrams is that it's solid ground and moving along. Uh, we talked about Walter Hamada as well, and there was a picture of Keaton's Batman shared by the directors of him looking face to face with Batgirl. I assume it's a scene where he probably at the end where they fly off together or glide off together. So it looks rather cool. I guess I can share my screen and show our live listeners in the chat right now. Uh, Batgirl meeting with Keaton's Batman and two of them. So it's kind of cool to see just two of them show down. And I think Batgirl's cowl looks amazing, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, I think that it looks great. There's a lot of people that were very confused as of who that person in the middle was. I was like, that's the director. And they're like, oh, I thought that was the villain. Like, yeah, no, that is just his hair. It's okay. He does look
Yeah,
a little crazy, but it looks good.
it looks
Um
cool. I would love to have that hair.
now I'm trying to think if there was any talking points that we were going off of uh as far as the rest of this conversation with the investors call, but I think that's really it. Oh, as far as like what the future holds for the DC universe, I messaged Travis, what was it? I think Friday, Thursday, maybe even on the weekend, that I have already started my reboot, relaunch, and soft reboot listings for what this 10-year plan could look like. Now, uh, I do think that we can have that here on a live show and not like a Patreon or something. We could do that here. Um,
Definitely. I need to do a
and
list as well, and I think it would be good to fill a slower news week to have that
yeah,
discussion. Because one thing, Clay, when does this 10-year clock start? When The
that's
Flash
that's
is
something
filmed? When
that's what I was wanting to say. I do not think we get this 10-year, because here's, you don't want to uh man, that shot was really cool. Yeah, I
I
really
agree.
love that picture from the Batgirl movie. The slate, the 10-year slate. You don't show your hand. You only show the first like, I wouldn't even say the first phase. Yeah, I give us the first phase. Don't even go towards the second phase, because these are fans that have been burned before. See how your first phase goes.
I
You
wouldn't
have
do
a
that.
plan.
I would just do we have a couple movies in mind after this one, and then tease it at the end of your first one. Like, I wouldn't even. I'd say we have a couple movies in mind for a story to go forward after this, and then show the not talk about the post credit scene that you have that shows complete continuation into the next thing.
Well, no, I was thinking more of like a presentation for your phases, kind of like, of course, what Kevin Feige did
Oh
for
yeah,
San Diego Comic Con.
I'm saying I think we should hold off until they get to closer to the end of the first phase before they even reveal. Like, yeah, we've had this in mind for a while. I think they
Well,
should wait until they get a couple movies in before they reveal that we've had this even one phase, because I'm burned too much to believe
well,
like you're
no,
going to get
because
rid of any.
I genuinely think that people will not be excited for DC. Like, yes, you can announce a Batman movie, you can announce a Superman movie, and everything else, but again, a lot of people asking, even with the Black Adam movie, even with the Aquaman movie, now with the Flash, is where does it lead? Like, what's the point of watching these movies? Because you have, like, WB, not you, but WB has promised the idea of a shared universe, and we have not really, we've gotten it, but with a whole lot of complications and a lot of cancellations and and actors and characters, moving past this universe. I think that you have to show a phase one. I think you have to.
I I don't know if you have to. I think it would, like you said, it would help reassure the rabid fan base that we have a plan. But I also think that showing it even now, and then you say it doesn't start until after Flash. I think they're just holding it until your the DC movies you have filmed, what ones you're going to put out, and then you decide. Because if you say we're doing a complete reboot, but you still have these other things here, so it's something that if they're relaunching it, like if they're continuing on, but like relaunching in a new direction, I think that you could do at a phase. Show me phase one. But if you're doing a complete reboot, I would like you just give me that thing that I said of we have a couple movies in mind. We have a story in mind going forward with this. It just depends on how successful this is. So don't get in front of yourself. Then if that first movie is successful, then your next con, you bring out the whoever's head of DC Studios and he shows you the rest of phase one that we have had planned. We just had to make sure that it was a success and it would work with you, the fans. That's basically essentially what I would do. I wouldn't put the cart in front of the horse too far.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just because like I want what you want. I want a laid out plan. Let me know, and it doesn't even have to be what films you're going to do. Like we said earlier, it could just be we're planning on doing two, 3, and then growing to 4, and then our final year, our 10th year, we're going to do 5 films in 1 year. Like, just build to something like that. I would be more confident of that, Clay, but I would be like, oh, good, they're not even sure what character's going to do yet. They're going to think about this a bit before they just say, oh, let's do the first 4 Justice League members we can think of. So that would be more reassuring.
I think that's Zazal's fan. I think that
Yeah,
if he
I'm
does,
afraid.
if he is doing a complete reboot, I think he is doing the one-offs of all the Justice League, and then the Justice League movie for Phase 1. I will say this: my hard reboot, because he is such a fan of Feige and Marvel. I will go ahead and tell you that my hard reboot is in line phase by phase for Marvel.
Ooh.
So the characters are similar, the team ups are
Oh
similar.
my God.
Because I think it'll be, hey, can I copy your homework? I'll just change some things a little bit. I think that is what Zaslav would do.
I think Zaslav is smart enough to, whoever is DC Studios head is their ball and they're going to run with it. I feel
But
like
I don't
he's
think
going.
I don't think so.
I do think so. I think it's because he's going to do that for every person, and if that person's not running with the ball, he'll fire that person and bring in another person. I think that he is, from everything I've read, he's a management style. Like, if he's giving you a task, you got to complete it, is what I've heard from what read.
But he's already talked about making the plan without even
Well,
mentioning. That's the big problem that I had
because he's
with.
speaking with the company as a whole. He's saying, like, he's representing the company right now to the earnings call. That's why it sounded the way it did, because he got to say we, because he's the spokesperson for the company right now on the earnings call. So that's why he's saying, I'll agree. Like, I need to see a film before I can, like, I say what I want, but I won't believe Zaslav won't pick at anything until I see the first film and know what happened to that, because that stuff gets out too. So I'm not confident that he won't pick at it, Clay, but from everything I've read that he won't. But I'm so burned with DC that I can't be confident in any one decision that is going to be made. I think that's a fact. Like, there's zero confidence in what they're going to do going forward, but that's why I don't want them to announce so much that I can look back in 5 years and be like, oh, look at that 2017 or 2016 San Diego Comic-Con projection of all the movies we got, or that tease for DC films of films we never ever saw, but you teased me. I was going to see them at CW.
Little do we know, Feige is writing out Phase 6 and Phase 1 for DC.
But yeah, I wouldn't be against Feige. He's the best in business taking over and guiding DC ship. But I just think they should get somebody that can plan this out, but don't put too much of plan out at one time. Just wait for a little bit first before you get super excited. That's all I ask.
Yeah.
Clay, I think we hit everything here. We have a episode of Smallville, X-Ray, to talk about before we end the night here.
Yes, we do. Real quick, Sawbones Sanchez. I love that name. What is an event from the comic you guys would want to see adapted in this new universe? I personally like to see the build up to Tower of Babel as a Civil War-esque project. Now, I will say, Sawbones, I'm writing this down because I don't think you were here when we were having this discussion, but we are going to be doing a completely separate episode live here on the Geekverse YouTube channel, where we are going to go over what our predictions will be for this 10-year slate. So I will say Tower of Babel is on my list, not as the Civil War part, but as other things.
That's a good suggestion, though, I must say, Sabone. I personally would love to see Crisis, of course, remade, but Deceased as well. That's one I would love to see as a animated one-off.
Caleb says, I mean, people can work for multiple companies. What if Kevin was president of both Marvel Studios and DC Studios, like how Elon Musk is CEO of Tesla and SpaceX? I don't think that's how that works, Caleb, but I do also think there is a conflict of interest when it comes to DC Studios and Marvel Studios. So I don't think that can happen. But I mean, I guess anything can happen now.
Power to you for pitching it.
Kevin, see the real reason why that can't happen is because Kevin can't wear two hats at once. That's the real
that's
problem.
true. Well, we're gonna have to get him one of these new hats with bills on both sides and DC side, and you swip them around.
He's
Swip 'em around,
he's
swip 'em around.
just gonna be wearing a bowler hat.
Yeah, two fronts of a baseball cap, and he'll spin them around as DC, spin them around Marvel, spin them around DC. He'll be at Comic-Con for 17 hours, just standing up there like a
Jeez.
robot.
Oh man. But let's go ahead and jump into X-Ray. This is, of course, episode 4 of Smallville. We have been joining the conversation of Smallville with Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling doing their Talkville podcast. And this is just something fun for us because there's nothing else to talk about now as far as TV shows and whatnot. So we're going to be going through this. Me and Travis have very much been enjoying it. And so thoughts on X-Ray? What'd you think about this episode?
It was my most enjoyable since the pilot, to be honest with you, Clay. And there was stuff I did enjoy more. I love a good Superman figure gets a new power and he has to figure it out story. We have a few of these sprinkled throughout this show, including like his heat vision, his cold breath. There's a couple other ones as well, but I'm blanking on them right now. But I love this. I love how his family helps him hone his skills, how he's frustrated about it as well. And Lana has a surprisingly pretty good emotional arc in this episode.
She does. I see. I watched this episode remembering almost everything that happened in this episode. To the opening scene, to the gym scene, everything.
Issues with that. What a terrible gym coach / teacher to like your student fell at least 20 feet onto the bare concrete, bare floor, bare hardwood floor, and that's it. You didn't go over and check on him or anything. You just let him.
Well, he
stare
yelled
off.
for him. He's like, "Hey, Kent, you okay? How you doing?" Trying to see if there's any response.
I
If
got a
he's not
headache.
responding-
You know what's going to help your headache? Climbing right up to the top of that and racing to see if you don't get out there, 10 push-ups.
I mean, that's what we did back in the day.
We didn't have a rope to climb up in my school.
Really?
No, we didn't have to do that.
Oh man,
We just play sports.
jeez, lucky. I've climbed a rope and it
Yeah,
sucked.
lucky. My school's gym was super small because someone embezzled funds from it, and I had to jump serve in volleyball through the equipment door. I had to stand in the equipment door hallway and throw the ball out through the equipment door and run out and jump up to do a jump serve because the lines for the volleyball court were right against the wall, almost right against the wall, one step against the wall for the volleyball courts because the gym was so small.
Huh.
Yeah. Woo!
Very interesting. Now,
Yeah.
I will say this. The one thing that I am bothered by when it comes to Michael and Tom talking about this show is Michael Rosenbaum's very dirty, inappropriate mind. Now, I get some of the jokes and everything else, but my God, it's like every single episode immediately goes into a perverted mind.
That's the way he is. That's the way he is.
Like, Jesus Christ, man. Just like calm down for just a second. For
That's
just
the
a
way it is.
second.
I will say I loved Lex in this episode. Like really
Yes.
enjoyed him, how he seemed really Lexy to me, and they mentioned that as well on the podcast. I love how they talked about Tom's peeping Tom stuff that I mentioned just then about Lana. Him staring, I didn't mention it in specific detail, but he stared off, and what he was staring off into was the girls' locker room. I enjoyed that. Are you getting sick of the Freak of the Week yet? Because that is one thing that's starting to. Although this one didn't die, so that's
No, I am not getting tired of Freak of the Week just yet, because as of right now, I know that it still is. It's gonna happen for all of this season, and I mean for multiple seasons.
Wasn't it in the first season that where multiple of them teamed up, or was that in the second season where
I
they
believe
stole
that's
his
second
power?
season. I
They
think
stole his power. I think.
I'm pretty sure that's second season.
Yeah, so it was people from the first season
Yeah.
teaming up. Okay, yeah.
Now, with this, I really enjoyed this. Michael Rosenbaum brought it up, and I immediately thought about it when I was watching it on my own. The villain, excuse me, accidentally kills her mom, throws her into a cupboard, and then Clark sees her with his X-ray vision, says, "Oh, I have a hunch we got to get in there." Goes through like a back door or something, comes in, they open this cupboard, she falls out, and then Pete is just like,
Oh, damn.
"Damn, who's
Damn, who's that? Like, what a reaction.
that?"
Not scared at
and it's
all. I
it's
would be
not like
running right out
holy
of the other
shit, that's a
room.
dead body. It's like, damn.
Who's that? And
Why
Clark's
are we
like,
supposed to care again? Like
and
that
Clark's
is
like,
the emotion that he has in his voice, and it's hilarious.
well, Clark is just in like, well, that's Tina's mother, and they just go talk about it. Well, she's still dead on the floor right next to him. Oh, I think it was a broken neck, and he just goes out. You're like, okay, that was a little weird when you just saw someone dead, but you know, we're gonna go with it. It was the 2000s. It was a weird time.
But
Onward and
I believe, of course, this is one of the first times Clark is having to use his powers, and it's not really a visual power for other people to see.
I think they
But
do a good job here.
I do like the X-ray vision. I do like the aesthetic of everything when he uses it. Um, I do think that this is kind of like the first steps into forcing Pete to be with him with a
Yeah,
lot of these times that he's having to use his powers, which will eventually turn into, hey, we have to tell Pete that I have superpowers,
yeah.
which I do enjoy that
That's a
episode
good
as well.
episode as well. Yeah,
That's coming
very
up
good.
pretty soon.
I also enjoy Pete's reaction and then Pete figuring out why it's such a big deal.
Yeah.
All in one episode, so it's a great episode. But yeah, like Clay said, this it's nice to see two of them pal around here and investigate. But Tina's scheme falls apart pretty quickly. The money's discovered, and she goes to fight Clark. I love this as she pretends to be Lana and then transforms into Tina. I like the transforming effect, Clay. I thought it didn't pull me out. It was a little 2001 and 2008, 2000s, but it wasn't that bad. It wasn't so bad that I was. The end result was good enough. Like when they changed from face to face, that the in between I didn't notice it as much. Like the transformation.
So yes, on the game is actually still with us here. He's asking, was Allison Mack doing her crazy sex cult thing at this point?
No.
I don't believe she was.
I think season 5-ish is when they talked about her
yeah.
starting to like go and ask people, or maybe even earlier than that, season 2 or 3, trying to get Christian.
I think it
to go.
started around 2 or 3 is
Yeah.
when she first gets started with the whole thing.
Lana says to Chloe, "You know what you want to be and who you are," and I'm like, I think that was the specific reason why she went there.
Not yet, but she will.
But I think that was a specific reason why this girl went to see this whole cult thing. Was she didn't.
But
know
I have to
about all
ask.
that.
I have to ask you because, man, was her name Tina? I think her name was Tina. She was out there, man.
Yeah.
Going
Lana,
all the way, doing this whole thing of like, hey Lana, do you think if anything happened to my mom, your aunt will adopt me and we could be sisters? I'm like, if her aunt adopts you, you'll be cousins, you idiot. But like, it was weird. It was super weird. Now, again, people just need help because we do learn that Tina has a very rare bone disease that when the meteor shower came, scientists and doctors experimented with modern medicine and kryptonite, what we know now as kryptonite, and they helped her recover.
Yeah.
And that's what gives her the ability to morph into different people. Did you ever have somebody in high school that was just a little too clingy to you, like Tina is?
No, I did not.
No. Yeah,
No,
neither did I.
No.
But it's just like, I know it's dramatized for like TV and stuff, but my God, it was creepy. It was really
it
out
would
there.
sound off alarms immediately, and I don't think you have to be crazily nice to be how Lana is with her at the end, and she's basically incapacitated. But like I said, she's not killed, and I think she does return at some point in the second season.
I
Actually, I do
believe she
remember
does.
why. I do remember how and why she returns. Yes. So I look forward to talking about that when we get to there. But
the story with Lex Luthor with this journalist is really just looking for a payoff because he knows that he's blackmailing a Luthor. Hey, just give me a lot of money, I'll go about my day. And I
well, not
love what
only a Luthor, Lionel's son. He thinks Lex is spoiled, entitled, and Daddy solves all his problems for him.
yes. And so the end result of this was very, very cool because when they finally meet up to where this journalist believes that he is going to be getting a whole bunch of money, instead, he gets the money, and then Lex is like, oh, by the way, you don't exist anymore.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make you a murderer or a thief or whatever I want tomorrow.
Yeah.
And this guy folds like in 2 seconds, throws the money back, and says, "We'll be even now." And nope, now he's working for Lex and he's investigating the crash. So we're gonna get more into that down the road in this season. And
I did
I'm
not
really excited.
realize how early on, because I did remember this room.
Yeah,
Like, because there's this one big room
I think in the season
inside the
finale, this room is exposed to other people in the show.
yes.
Yeah,
But this room is giant. It's all black, and you can clearly see that it's like in a studio.
Yeah.
But it is the car of Lex Luthor that he crashed into Clark, and this car plays such a role in this show for the entire series because it even comes up again, I believe, in the final season.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, of course, this is a play off of Action Comics #1 with Superman, throwing the car against the rocks or whatever. But this episode was fun. I really did
Really
enjoy
fun,
it.
really fun.
There was, like you said, the emotional scene with Lana learning about her mother giving the speech for the
Controversial one, according
yeah
to the people back in the
yeah
70s. But
the graduation speech, the
and
controversial
finding
one.
her diary and all that stuff. That was great character building for Lana this episode.
Yeah, for sure. But that's really it. As far as the critiques go, I can't remember anything stand out ish on the podcast that was like, oh man, that's actually really, really cool. Just some of the stuff again, guys. If you're not listening to
Tom
Talkville,
Welling talked about the prop guy getting fired when he said that
oh
he could
yeah, when he
punch the
punched
gravestone.
the
He said Tom
gravestone, yeah,
Welling could punch the gravestone. Tom's like, I don't know about that. And he says, see, and he tries to do it and he don't crack it, and then he's not there the next day.
yeah, and he said they don't see him ever again.
Yeah.
Show business, guys, show business.
Yeah.
But guys, if you are not listening to Talkville, I recommend it. It's really, really fun. It is Michael Rosenbaum, Tom Welling, and then their producer Ryan, who
tells
has
his
never seen.
favorite scene of the episode, and they have to guess it, which is very enjoyable.
Yeah, and it's really cool to listen to somebody who has never seen the show before talk about it and get his notes on it.
Especially to the two main characters' faces.
Yeah, that is also. I can't wait until they get special guests on it.
Like
I'm really.
he mentioned to Michael Rosenbaum, like, to look at your younger face than what your face looks like now. He's like, yeah, I'm old. I know. It was a funny part.
But I'm really interested in seeing which guests they're able to get onto the podcast. I would really love to see some directors or writers get onto the show because they have mentioned a few of them already.
And co-stars as well.
And then, of course, the co-stars. Probably not Allison Mack, though.
Yeah,
as Rosenbaum has said like twice now in 4 episodes. But with that, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. It was a lively chat, and I think we reached upward to about 8 people here in the YouTube. So that is very, very cool. Thank you so much. I just wanted to go ahead and give a smaller shout out. I was going to do this in the very beginning, but I didn't do the plugs. So GUA Patreons, our top tier Patreons, Charlie, Andy, Jim, Captain Wright, Joshua, David, and Joe, thank you so much for subscribing to our Patreon. We greatly appreciate it. If you guys want to join our Patreon, just search Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. $1 tier is just to support us, and the $5 tier gives you the exclusive content. But with that, guys, thank you so much, and we will see you guys. We will actually see you guys tomorrow, technically, when you are listening to this, for that Sandman crossover, and then again on the weekend for part 2 of that review. See you then.
See you then, guys.